Subscribe to our YouTube channel and press the bell icon to get the latest updates.
I'm with Arvind Dattar, Senior Advocate at the Supreme Court of India, very well-known lawyer. Mr. Dattar, welcome to The Print. We are talking, you're in Chennai, I'm in Delhi, and we are talking about this contempt case against Prashant Bhushan. The three Supreme Court judges this week pronounced him guilty of contempt over two tweets that he had done in June. This is an old story, everybody knows what happened. He was pronounced guilty. Prashant Bhushan says that he is not going to ask for mercy. What do you think? Do you think that the quality of mercy in the Supreme Court should now be demonstrated in the coming week when this case comes up again?
Well, it will not be proper for me to comment on what the Supreme Court should do, but they have given him 4 days' time to apologize. But I think from what I read in the media, he has given a statement that he has said so out of his own bona fide beliefs. And then he said it will not be proper for him to say sorry or ask for mercy. And I think he has quoted Mahatma Gandhi also on that point. So I personally feel that Actually, I've written an article on this, and I felt that this, as far as the contempt judgment is concerned, there were two tweets. The first tweet was showing he just on a motorcycle, which I personally felt was not in good taste. I mean, it's entirely his personal life, what he does on a motorcycle, or he goes somewhere.
Well, this is the Chief Justice on the motorcycle in Nagpur.
Yes, that was the first tweet, which I personally feel that was not necessary to bring it out on that particular tweet, but then that won't amount to contempt, is my view. On the second tweet, he made a more serious. I thought that required a greater amount of introspection, a greater amount of concern, where he mentioned about the destruction of democracy and the role of four Chief Justices of India. And when I saw his counter, he has given about almost 100 paragraphs or 60-70 pages of his justification. And as I wrote in my article, I thought that at least the court could have gone into the reasons why he has said so, and whether that amounted to contempt, because criminal contempt is something which scandalizes the court or which interferes with the judicial proceeding or undermines the dignity of the court. So suppose he had said something, suppose part of the allegations are true, suppose part have got some merit there. See, I may say that this particular court is too slow in dispensing justice. That won't become contempt. If I can say cases are taking 7 years, 10 years, and so on. And Prashant Bhushan has mentioned his own anguish and concern that habeas corpus petitions are not being taken up. The Article 370 has been pushed, has not been taken up. Certain other issues which he felt should have been taken up are not been taken up. But you and I may not agree with his views. But the point is, the essence of democracies, we have two diametrically opposite views. We're entitled to espouse them as strongly as we can, within limits, of course, certain limits. But that doesn't amount to contempt, is my humble opinion.
So two questions from that, Mr. Dattar. The first is that the Supreme Court used, or the three judges who are looking into this matter, they have used this very eloquent expression, scandalizing the court. What does that mean for lay people like us?
Actually, scandalizing the court is not used by the court. It is part of the Contempt of Courts Act. You know, in India, we have got, from 1971, we have got civil contempt, which is simply, basically, willfully is important, willfully disobeying a court's judgment, or willfully violating an undertaking you give to the court. That is civil contempt. What we're talking of, criminal contempt, which one of the limbs of criminal contempt is scandalizing the court. Suppose for example, I make scandalous remarks, like in the case of Justice Karnan, he mentioned that one judge, they have violated the scheduled caste orders. He made serious allegations against the judges personally. There are earlier judgments where they have said that this particular judge is known to the accused and so on. This is scandalizing the court. I mean, you make a scandalous statement, primarily it should be completely untrue and which will shock the public, undermine the reputation of the judiciary in the mind of the public. That would be scandalizing the court, yes.
So do you think that Prashant Bhushan scandalized the court with his two tweets?
See, I don't want to say whether he's scandalized or not. I thought that he has made a statement, and if the court says it is amount to contempt, actually there was an analysis of his defense and then come to a conclusion that this does or does not scandalize the court. That
so why do you think that didn't happen?
I don't know why they didn't do it, because the court has quoted many judgments. See, the principles of law are very well settled. I mean, contempt law is there for the last almost 100 years. The first Contempt of Courts Act was in 1926, so we have got contempt law for a long time. And definitely the law is well settled. You can't say something which undermines the confidence of the public in the judiciary, because it's the judiciary which really keeps it as going as a democracy. You see, it's a balancing factor between what the legislature wants to do and what the rights are. There has always been a conflict between the courts, the political parties wanting to do something, and often without intending to, so they may violate the liberties of people. So where do you draw the balance? Where do you draw the balance between national security and personal liberty? So all those issues are there from so many years. We had the emergency, we had post-emergency, you had so many issues. But what amounts to scandalizing the court is, suppose I make a statement which is completely untrue. I make a personal allegation against you as a judge. That would be scandalizing. But then when you give me a response, you must at least say that, look, Mr. Datta said something against Justice Malhotra, and that's not true. And it's not true for ABCD reasons.
So 2 questions from there, Mr. Datta. The first is that if we just look at the tweets, Prashant Bhushan's tweets, the first one was on the motorcycle that Chief Justice Bobde was riding. And I personally thought that was, actually quite a beautiful bike, and no matter what it costs, but we're not going there. And that upset.
A beautiful motorcycle, yes.
It is. Yeah, and it upset the court, but I thought it was a small matter. I mean, are you saying that a Chief Justice cannot ride a motorcycle? I'm sure he can.
No. I think
without a helmet.
No. That I think is a very minor. We are just. I mean, even if I sit on a bike, I don't have to wear a helmet. I mean, that is. And he himself has said, I think in his thing that it's my mistake. Sorry, he was not riding a bike. He was.
It was stationary. It was stationary.
But I think there are far too many important problems the nation is facing than whether somebody is going on a bike. And I sometimes feel the media. I mean, I don't want to mention you, but they're just waiting for something to blow out of all proportion.
No, it was just that Chief Justice Bobde riding a bike made him feel like one of us, that you're going on holiday or something. It's like a lark. But actually,
for example, suppose you're a judge and you like fast cars. I mean, you may be sitting in a Porsche or a sports car. So what? I mean, it doesn't matter. But on the first tweet, on the more serious note, he mentioned that courts are locked down.
Yes.
And at least on that issue, the Supreme Court felt upset. They said, how can you say lockdown? Because we are conducting virtual hearings. We have heard 13,000 cases and so on and so forth. So the court felt a bit upset. But what Bhushan was saying was, look, it's not that you're not hearing cases. He's saying that there are several important cases which are not being heard. And it is not just the Supreme Court which is locked down. He has mentioned Supreme Court. But as a lawyer, I'm concerned that so many district courts are shut down. High courts are shut down. Bail applications can't be heard in many cases. That was a major problem. But there on that lockdown issue, court said he was not justified in saying lockdown. Now, whether it's lockdown, shutdown, we can keep debating.
Sure.
But again, the point is, does it amount to contempt? That's the question.
And the other tweet that he made again in June was about amounting to his accusation, if you like, that there was an undeclared emergency.
Personally speaking, I think Mr. Bhushan did have a point there, because there are very many issues which bother a lot of citizens. Like habeas corpus petitions can't be postponed by 6 months and 3 months. I mean, the law is that should be taken absolutely on priority. Habeas corpus should be delayed even by a week. Somebody's liberty is there. It could be your daughter, it could be my son, taken away without a trial, and the courts are so. That's one point which I thought. Then
why do you think it's doing that? Why do you think habeas corpus petitions in Jammu and Kashmir are being delayed for a year now?
I have no answer, and I feel that should never have happened. And that's what everybody feels. See, many people feel that 370 should have gone. Yes, that's a point of view. But if a person has been detained without trial, now the people of Jammu and Kashmir are like all citizens. They are just like you and me. So suppose you are taken into custody in Delhi, for example.
Yeah.
Your relative or your daughter, son, somebody, your person can file habeas corpus and say, what happened? Why is she detained? And the courts will. And I think it would be wrong for the court to then say, I'm adjourning the case to October. Don't forget that you're in jail for 3 months. And habeas corpus, the person is being detained without a trial. It may be necessary for national security. I don't say no. What I'm saying is post the case and then say, yes, so-and-so person is a person who deserves to be detained. He has violated the particular law under POTA or whatever the law is there. But at least take up the matter and dispose it off.
So are lawyers and advocates like yourself concerned that this is not happening?
Indeed we are. That was the point. And that's one reason why people have felt that he should not have been punished. At least the court should have taken note of the allegations he has made of important cases not being taken up. That's why there's a huge public swell of saying that, look, what he has done is not fair. That's what is huge. I mean, many retired judges of the Supreme Court have spoken about it. Number of lawyers have spoken about it. I wrote an article on it. See, definitely there's a matter for concern. There's no question about it.
So what else can you do? I mean, there's been a letter that's been written by several people also a couple of days ago. But beyond writing letters, what can you do? There is no other recourse, right? You can't force the Supreme Court to take notice of this, of the fact that habeas corpus is not being looked at.
See, I feel that if somebody makes serious allegations, and if it's a senior member of the bar who's making allegations, examine it. If it is, I suppose it's completely false, it's malicious, then you ignore it or you punish him for contempt, whatever you want to do. But please go through the allegations, and if there is some semblance of truth, I think it is serious time for introspection and see where are we going. See, because if, for example, the habeas corpus petition is not heard for a year, I don't think it is a matter for just to say that it's okay, the courts are overburdened or there's a pandemic. There has to be something has to be done. And as you rightly put it, we can't compel the courts to do it, but then the courts must see that, look, if we postpone habeas corpus for 6 months, if we don't take up controversial issues immediately, what will be the faith of the people in the judiciary?
So, Mr. Datar, tell me, in the Constitution, or the way the conventions have developed in these last 70 odd years, is it that you cannot criticize the Supreme Court at all?
No. In fact, to be fair to the Supreme Court itself has said that they've tolerated a lot of criticism. For example, in the case of Shiv Shankar, who was the law minister, the famous case of Shiv Shankar, where he said that bright burners, FERA violators, the criminals have found their haven in the Supreme Court. And there have been earlier cases also where strong remarks have been made. Famous case of Namboodiripad, where he said that the Supreme Court are class enemies and so on. I mean, he had used strong words as a Marxist. The court just shrugged it off, took it on their broad shoulder. They said, look, this is completely uncalled for. And so on. And see, in England, for example, recently in the Brexit judgment, the Miller judgment, the Daily Mirror called them enemies of the people. They ignored it. In 1987, after the Spycatcher case, again, the Daily Mirror called three law lords as three old fools. They showed the picture of the law lords in reverse, and they called them three old fools. And the court said yes. In fact, that said that we are three, we are old, and if you call us fools, a matter of opinion, that's not contempt. But if you attribute personal motives, that they did it for corrupt motives or did it maliciously or they had some personal interest in the matter, then it is contempt.
So in this particular case, Prashant is not accusing them of personal motives.
No, there is no accusation. He just see I thought the second tweet has to be taken more seriously, and
exactly. That's what we're talking about. This undeclared emergency tweet.
What I thought is we see his contentions. Are they right? If they are right, what corrective measures have we taken? That's my point, you see, and that the Supreme Court should have done is when the matter was presented before it, because this was done tremendously. I mean, you had the 22nd July was the notice of they issued notice to contempt. By 14th August, in a span of 20 days, 22 days, judgment was delivered. So it was a very fast hearing. So maybe they should have seen what his contention was. And he was represented by very eminent counsel. Dushyant Dave appeared for him. Rajiv Dhawan is appearing for him.
Right.
They're all seasoned lawyers. At least see what they are saying.
So last few questions, Mr. Datar. My question to you is about freedom of speech. So there are limits to freedom of speech?
Certainly there. I mean, our right is not as extensive as the US right under the First Amendment to the US Constitution. Yeah, our right is subject to contempt. And in England, they've abolished criminal contempt. But I personally feel we should not abolish criminal contempt in India, at least. That's my view. Keep it there. Use it as sparingly as possible.
But then then you're holding a rod over somebody's, a stick on the head.
No, sometimes it may be necessary. I personally feel that it may not be right to completely take away the power of criminal contempt in India. But it's a rod, and what important is it should be used very sparingly and very sagaciously.
So on Monday morning, I'm asking you to look into a crystal ball when the judges meet again, the honorable judges, and they examine what Prashant Bhushan has said. He has said he's not going to apologize, and that he's not looking for any magnanimity. What do you think is going to happen? Because this is something that we're all wondering. Both sides have, in a sense, painted themselves into a corner.
Actually, under the law, technically speaking, the punishment can be up to 6 months imprisonment or a fine of 2,000 rupees or both. That's the technically the maximum punishment that can be done.
Right.
What the Supreme Court will do, as you said, I don't want to play the role of an astrologer or looking in crystal ball. My sincere hope is that they should just leave it at that, be what they call, US courts call, see with disdainful interference, and more than anything, question of punishment. If you ask me, I would not like to see any punishment given. I'll be very sorry if it is there. I would feel that a person has been punished without giving a justification. And one more thing I wanted to mention, which I said in my article also. If I am punished by the High Court, I have the right of going an appeal. It's not a leave given to me. I can, by law, have a right of appeal to the Supreme Court if I'm punished for contempt of the High Court.
Right.
When the Supreme Court punishes you, there is no appeal. It's just one court. So the Supreme Court is the trial court and the final court. So keeping that also in mind should be a very important factor in seeing whether you should punish or not. And maybe there's also calls for a reform, whether the Supreme Court punishes you, should there be an open review? Should there be a review in open court? One right of review should be there, because the rule of law requires that any order is always subject to one appeal or one test, at least. It's never a one-stop thing, that once it's a final thing. Let's hope for the best. I hope that this whole thing comes to an end without any punishment and fine, and maybe we can also then be prepared to put the parameters of the law of contempt. What is the limits of fair criticism? Maybe that can be done.
Right. I think. Yeah. No, I think right now the definition of the Lakshman Rekha is being examined perhaps in the minds of these men. But Mr. Datar, thank you so much for your time, for speaking to the Print. And be sure that I will be calling upon you in the coming days to explain to us what the importance of this judgment or this discussion is. Thank you again for your time.
Thank you so much. Thank you. All the best.